Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Thank you for being with us today. Today, you have two Karen Elaines, Karen Elaine Strock and Karen Elaine Osborne. How cool is that? I want to tell you all about Karen, and then you'll learn more. She's like this most amazing woman. The first time I interviewed her, maybe you remember her from 2021 when I interviewed Karen in the past, and I introduced her as a Renaissance woman because she just does everything creative. It's so amazing. We're going to mostly focus on her newest book. Today's publication day. Congratulations, congratulations. Uh, but boy, we could talk about like a zillion things. So Carren she has, today's the publication day for her second in a series, the Coney Island Mysteries. And she's going to talk about that. Who's watching the children? Uh, she's also an extraordinary and award-winning writer of nonfiction, mystery, romance, paranormal romance, children's picture book, and a middle grade chapter book. She's also an award-winning artist and photographer. And one of the coolest things I found out is that I don't know how many of you have seen the show Orange is the New Black, but Karen was a convict. I love saying that. Welcome back, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me. You make me want to meet me.
I'm hoping I'm making them want to meet you. All of our viewers want to meet you. That's what I'm hoping, and that they'll buy your books. So start with the premise, though, before we talk about the second book in the series, the newest one that's dropping today. Tell us about the first one. Just give everybody a taste of the first Coney Island mystery.
The first one started, I was at a workshop and we were doing visualizations. And for some reason, a visual came to me of a young woman on a rise. And when she turned sideways, I saw that she was pregnant. And I had nothing to go with on that. But as I slept that night, the name Mallory McGill came to me. And I realized someone had taken her baby. And that was the premise of the first book. And she refuses to believe that she won't find her baby. And one detective is on her side, and the other detective does not believe that she's telling the truth. That's the premise of
Mm.
that book. And Moses, a very wise, street smart kid, befriends her. He paints graffiti, and she's an artist, so they become friends. And he helps her. I won't tell you the ending. But in that book, the doctor, I felt like I had done him a disservice, Willard Thompson. And I thought about that and thought about that. And when I wrote the second book, I knew I had to redeem him because not everybody is all bad and not everybody's all good. And he kind of fell into doing something. He started out to do something good, and it turned into something that nobody would have ever imagined. And so in the second story, he's there, and the detectives are there, and Moses is there. And the candy store lady, Rachel, who also appeared in the first book. Her character is based on my Aunt Rachel, who had a candy store, and she was like the mother hen for all the neighborhood kids. She'd know when one of them needed a warm sweater, she'd knit it for them, things like that. We don't
Mm.
have that today so much. But two other children came into this new story. Yolanda, who's 5, a young 5, and Mateo, who's an old, wise 7. And they wake up one morning and their mom is missing. And so their story threads through the book, as does the detective. Detective Sam Rothman has fallen in love with with the nurse at the hospital. And she goes missing on the night that he's going to propose to her. So eventually the stories entwine. And it's just it's a page turner.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. I remember reading the first one, and I remember what a compelling character Moses was too. I'm so glad he's back. He was he was a great character. And I remember Mateo as well. And in the first, because wasn't Mateo in the first book as well?
No, no, that he's in the second book.
He's only in the
The
second
first
book.
book has some of Moses' friends, and the snot is in the first book. And when Moses is looking, he goes to these various characters on the street. And
Yeah.
he's like the wise man. Everybody goes to Moses to solve their problems. And he's based
Mm.
on a boy in my first or second grade class. And it always blew my mind how everyone went to him. Moses, he took my pen, or he did this, and he would solve all these issues. And it's amazing that was many years ago. I was in the first grade, but I never forgot him.
Wow.
So,
That's That's impressive. I hope
yeah.
you all are following that first, she had an image and then she had, it's just people think that we're crazy writers, creators, because people I was meeting with a small group of people and they said, well, how did that book come to you? And I said, well, people talk to me in my head and they say, you have to write my story. And they're like, okay. Yeah. And then she said to me, he said, well, I thought maybe like you had a dream. Was it in a dream? So, well, that could happen too. Okay, that could happen too.
Each of my
She
books came
doesn't,
out in an entirely different way, you
yeah,
know, but they
just
needed to
don't
be
know.
born. Yeah.
Yeah, they just want to be born exactly right. So when you think about, first of all, what's the age that you were aiming at? Who's your audience for this book?
This is a general audience for anybody,
General broad.
general broad mystery. It's a gentle mystery, and it just interconnects a lot of people.
So I know how much you love this series. What do you love best about it? What makes you so happy about the first book and then writing this one? Because you've written so many books in between, done so many things around it. What is it about this series that just really
I love my
pleases you?
characters. They've become family, and I just didn't want to see them languish after the first book. They needed to come back to life. Moses is now taking college courses in high school to be a forensic. Oh God, the words are skipping me now. But he wants to be some type of detective, and he just hooks up with the detectives who just kind of put up with him. But he helps them a lot, and then he
Mm.
befriends these two children who have a missing mother. They're afraid to tell anybody because they might be deported or they might be separated. And so this little boy takes on a big role. And eventually when they get hungry enough, they run to Rachel at the candy store. And she becomes part of their story. And Moses is her friend. He gets involved. And the detectives and the missing nurse, it just it's one thing leads to another. But what I love about it is the ending. I don't want to give it away. So yeah,
But you love the ending.
I think you will. Yeah.
So you will love the ending. Yes, yes, yes. So you have such an eclectic creative career. Easy for you to say. Um, what's are you working on now? Do you have multiple projects? One project? What's going
This is a
on?
fun one. This is it's called The Cahill Ghost. It takes place in 1905, and it's about a little girl who's killed with her family. And the family goes up to their hereafter, and she's left behind to bear witness. And she's not even
Mm,
sure what that means.
mm,
And you find that out through the book. So she's able to connect with her two friends. These are living friends. And it's her story. And this one started out because somebody posted something on Facebook saying, do you believe in spirits or in paranormal happenings? And so many people wrote in about experiences that they had had. And I personally have had several. And I thought, this
mhm.
is the time for this book to be birthed. And Letty, who's the little girl, um, I was staying at the Holiday Inn in Grand Island years ago. And one of the housekeepers told me that the place was haunted. And she told me the story of this little girl with blue mutton chop sleeves and high button shoes. And that was the kind of dress they would wear in 1905. That's why I said
Mhm.
this book is a historical novel in that era. But they talked about this little girl. One of the housekeepers had seen her going into the linen closet, and she went in to tell her that the little girl couldn't be in there. When she got there was no one there. And then another person working felt somebody like leaning over her shoulder, and she looked up to see this little girl, and she said, "I'll talk to you as soon as I finish cleaning." And the little girl was no longer there. And a
Mm.
guard saw the swimming pool, and the pool was locked for the night, but they saw footsteps, like wet steps
Mhm.
without a person attached to them. And so a lot of people reported different instances. So that always stayed with me. And when I saw this on Facebook about so many people, I thought, now it's time for Letty's story to be born.
That is
So,
awesome.
you
Yeah, my grandmother, not the one that I inspired True Grace, my latest novel, but on the other side of the family, my grandma on my mother's side, she had these experiences all the time. And it was always when she was pregnant, and she was pregnant 5 times. And each of those times, there was somebody, she was living in a rooming house, and there was somebody always in the bathroom on her floor because the bathroom was out, was out in the hall. And she gets so frustrated because she's carrying this baby and she needed, we all know that, the pressure. So she complained to the landlord and he said, ma'am, you're the only person on that floor. You and your husband are the only people on
Oh
that
my
floor.
goodness.
And so then she described him. She said, right. I bang on the door and he comes out looking mad at me. And I speak to him. He doesn't say anything. And so she described him and he said, oh my goodness, he died in your room, you know, 5 years ago or 10 years ago or something. And that
I
was
just
her
got
first,
goose pimples. I'll have to read
yeah,
that book.
that was her first experience. But anyway, so
I think if you're open, things come through to you. If you're closed, they don't.
yes, that's a very good observation. If you're open, things come to you. So as you think about your creative life, and I mean the whole creative life, your writing life, your drawing life, your photography life, your acting life, all of your creative life, as you think about it, is there a book or an author that had a huge impact on any part of that creative life?
And yet I'm an eclectic writer, and I'm also an eclectic reader. I don't read one genre. I read a book when someone says, "Oh, you must read this book. I loved it." And that's when I pick up a book. But right now I'm reading a book called Beyond the Ashes. And it's not fiction. It's a cases of reincarnation from the Holocaust. And I don't know where I stand on people being reincarnated, although they talk about, children seem to know things, like how did they know them, unless it was from a past life, that kind of thing. But since the Holocaust, which was quite recent in terms of people being reincarnated, people have been coming to this doctor and saying, I feel like I experienced this, that, or the other thing. Even people of various religions experiencing things in another person's religion and come to check and go back, and they described a street and a house and a building, and somebody from that building might have been killed in the Holocaust, might have been murdered in the Holocaust. And so it's almost like they're reincarnated. It's a fascinating book. That's all I can say. I'm not finished
Say
with
the
it yet.
name of it again.
It's called Beyond the Ashes: Cases of
Beyond the Ash.
Reincarnation from the Holocaust.
Yeah. And do you have
And my
another one?
ghost story got me interested in that, in reading that. But my
Yeah.
all-time favorite is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's written so simply, and yet every time I get to a certain point, I cry. I know what's going to happen, and I still cry. And I'm trying to figure out, it's the writing that just does it.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Books that we read over and over again. Now, would be remiss if I didn't ask you, do you happen to have cover for your new book?
I think I can pull it up here. Oh my goodness, wait a minute. In the Shadow of the Wonder Wheel. I have it inside. Can you give me a second? I'm going to run.
Absolutely.
I'm
I
going to
will
run.
talk to our audience while you run out. So I hope Carren, and when she comes back after she shows us the cover, she is going to tell you how you can be in touch with her and where you can find her. And I would be so remiss if I didn't remind you how important it is to follow and like. I'm Carren E. Osborne on Facebook. I'm Carren E. Osborne on Twitter and on Instagram and on
I'm so
YouTube.
sorry.
No, that's fine. We've been chatting without you.
I took it inside to take a picture of it because I'm thinking of putting it on a business card. But that's the
Oh, look
cyclone
at
from
that.
Coney Island.
Isn't that beautiful? Who's
And just
watching the children? Yeah, we
and
can
just
see it.
in place, this is the other Coney Island book, and
This is the
that's The
first
Wonder
one.
Wheel.
In the shadow of the Wonder Wheel. Look at those. Aren't those gorgeous? Oh, that's great. So, Carren, tell our audience how they can find you. I just told them how they can find me. Tell them how they can find you.
They can look for me by my name, CarrenStrock.com is my website, and it has to be CarrenStrock.com. And all of my books are listed there, except for my latest book, because my webmaster became ill and isn't doing it anymore. So I have to find someone to help me with that.
Somebody to fix it for you. Yes, yes, because you need all your books
Yeah.
on the website. And are you on any other social media that people can follow you?
On Facebook under Carren Wagner Strock. That's my maiden name, Wagner. And also on Facebook, Carren Strock Author. So
Good.
most things get posted in both places. And I think you can find me at LinkedIn and at what's that other one? I'm
Twitter?
around.
She's around. So
And if you
please,
just go into just look up Carren Strock, a lot of my work will come up. I'm on a lot of YouTubes from interviews, which I'm going to put this one up, hopefully, if I figure out
yes.
how.
And this will be on my YouTube channel as well. So please follow Carren, Carren Strock. And I hope I will see you next week on the next episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Have a great week, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you.